The world of Horizon is an unforgiving one to say the least. Hostile machines, murderous bandits, and warring tribes are all dangers one must face in order to survive the 31st century. Some, however, despite the odds, have carved out a place in this new history as some of the most fearsome and feared warriors Gaia's Reborn world has ever seen. So, we here at RSQ have put together our list of the 10 most fearsome warriors Horizon Zero Dawn has to offer. Before we launch in, this list will not include our fiery-haired protagonist Aloy, as her skills are well known to all those who have played the game, and will only focus on the characters born post-Zero Day, so Heroes of Enduring Victory will not be included either. With all that said, let's get our rankings underway. Number 10, Assis, former Sunhawk of the Hunter's Lodge. Kicking off our list is regrettably one of the most unlikable characters HCD has to offer. Assis was an arrogant Karja traditionalist who resisted the progressive reforms of Sun King Avad during his life. But this isn't a top 10 list of the best people in Horizon. Becoming a hawk amongst the ranks of the Hunter's Lodge is a feat unto itself. Becoming the Lodge's leader is yet even more impressive. The singular distinction of Sunhawk is given to the hunter who brings down the greatest prey, and Assis did deliver, as he was the first hunter in recorded Karja history to bring down a Thunderjaw. After spear, bomb, and arrow had all failed to bring down the machine, he turned its own fallen guns against it, finally bringing it down. As is custom to the institution, if no witness is present for the hunt, a trophy must be presented as proof. Assis's trophy would be the entire carcass, which can still be seen hanging in the Hunter's Lodge. Along with his hunting prowess, Assis was devious and conniving, purposely orchestrating for a break in communication between Talana and her hawk Tarkus, causing him to perish before the terror of the South, Red Maw, without his thrush to aid him. Despite being a downright cutthroat individual, his skills and insidious cunning have more than earned him a place at number 10 on our list. Number 9, Vanasha, Karja Spy. Trained by Meridian spy master Blameless Murad, Vanasha is one of the most fearsome individuals one will find in the 31st century. A master of espionage, political subterfuge, and assassination, she can also more than handle herself in a fight. Thanks to her intellect and impressive physical condition, Vanasha was able to single-handedly dispatch a band of trained mercenaries tasked with assassinating Uthid at the Green Climb. She would also take up arms with Aloy against the Eclipse during her mission to escort Prince Itamen and his mother out of Sunfall, and again during the Battle of the Elite. Vanasha also states that she had ventured into the Forbidden West in order to orchestrate the liberation of the royals, a feat not to be taken lightly. I'm sure many have made the mistake of underestimating Vanasha in her life, a fact that I'm sure she is more than exploited to the fullest. Number 8, Nil, Karja Soldier. Mysterious and deadly, Nil began to hone his skill in battle long before ever crossing paths with Aloy. During the Red Raids, he, like all Karja, found himself fighting on the side of Sun King Jiran. Though many specifics aren't known during this time, or his presence at the Battle of the Daunt or Cinnabar Sands, he's thought to be the lone survivor of the latter. After the liberation, Nil turned himself in to the new Sun King and served 2 years in the prison of Sunstone Rock. Even after his sentence, he still yearned for battle and death. So, he took to rooting out bandits across the land to slake his bloodlust, knowing that no tribe would pay any mind to that kind of loss. Those within would face his mastery of the sword, bow, and sling, honed over many years in combat. It would be on one of these excursions into the Sacred Land, after the Nora were weakened by the Proving Massacre, that Nil and Aloy would meet. Together, they would eliminate the bandit threat, until the Nora could reoccupy the lands without fear of incursion. The fate of Nil is left to the player, as you can oblige his wishes in a duel to the death or deny him, in which case he joins the fight against the Eclipse. Regardless, Nil knows battle and death, making him one of the most cold-blooded warriors in Horizon. Number 7, Talana Khan Padish, Sunhawk. Raised in a hunter's household, Talana was denied the right to join the Lodge in Meridian under the reign of the 13th Sun King. After her father and brother perished at his hand in the Sun Ring, she would flee Meridian, returning after the liberation. She would then be sponsored into the lodge by Tarkus, a close friend of her father, becoming a thrush, much to the chagrin of Assis. In order to restore the honor of her family, stricken from the record by the current Sunhawk, and avenge the treachery that caused Tarkus' death, she set her sights on bringing down Red Maw, the most murderous of machines. Together, her and her thrush Aloy would bring down the legendary Thunderjaw and would assume the rank of Sunhawk, the first woman in Carja history to ever earn the right. Perhaps more impressive, however, is what we witnessed Talana achieve after the events of the Looming Shadow. After fighting alongside Aloy against the Eclipse, she would leave Meridian and battle dangerous new machines like Shell Snappers and Claw Striders. Her agility and tactical mind allowed her to prevail over these enemies, along with thwarting the efforts of rival hunters that wanted her dead. With her assumed presence in the sequel, there's a chance that Talana may rise even higher on this list, depending on what she's able to overcome in the Forbidden West. Number 6. Sona, Nora Warchief. To the Nora, braves handle many responsibilities of the tribe, one of which is the defense of the sacred land. Over the past decade before Aloy's story, the Nora were under constant threat of Carja incursion during the Red Raids. On the front lines of the tribe's defense was Sona, said to be one of the greatest braves the tribe has ever known. A deadly fighter, canny tactician, and an iron-willed leader, she was the hero of many battles against the Carja, bandits, as well as the machines that threatened the sacred land. Thanks to feats such as these, her rise to the rank of war chief was inevitable. Later, she would lead the Nora war tribe against the Eclipse, and with the help of Aloy, drive the cult from the Embrace. She would also travel far from her home and join the fight against the corrupted machines of Hades as they marched on the Spire, avenging the braves who had fallen at the hands of its corruption. All in all, Sona is a fearsome warrior, formidable to man and machine alike, cementing her spot on this list. Number 5. Aratak, Banuk Chieftain. Banuk as a whole are a formidable people, an entire culture based on perseverance in strife, where survival is the only thing that truly matters. Within the tribe are sub-tribes known as Weriks, each led by a shaman and a chieftain. Those who are best among their fellow hunters and warriors ascend to the rank of chieftain, and one of the most formidable among the Banuk is indeed Aratak. Residing in the Cut, Aratak not only had to endure the frigid climates of the region, but also the Carja incursions of Duran during the decade-long Red Raids. There he battled the Sun's Chosen in many battles at the southern border of Banuk lands, defending the interior from invasion until Duran was finally defeated by his own son. Later, as chieftain, he would battle some of the most fearsome machines at the foot of the Mountain of Thunder's Drum, and survive to honor and avenge those who had given their lives against the demonic machines. He would later join Aloy after being bested by the Huntress and battle the latest hunter-killers of Hephaestus in the frozen wilds, such as the Frostclaw, Scorcher, and Fireclaw, eventually liberating Cyan and dismantling the Epsilon Cauldron within Firebreak. After these events, Aratak would be one of many to join Aloy in her battle against Hades, helping save the world from a second apocalypse. His grit, conquest in battle, and lead-from-the-front mentality more than earned this snow hunter a place on our list. As he says, his enemies are prey. Number 4. Mazarad, the Sunflash. A decorated warrior of Carja legend, Mazarad's exploits brought him across the land in search of challenge and adventure. In his shimmering scaled armor, he battled Oseram warbands in the north and the Plains Raiders in the south. With the promise of the greatest battle of his lifetime in his home of Meridian, he returned to battle on the side of Avad during the liberation of the Carja capital. Though he would fall, his body would be found beneath a heap of Duran's kestrels that he had slain before his death. To put this feat alone in perspective, kestrels are the most elite of the Sun King's forces, so the fact that against such well-trained adversaries, he was able to bring down so many before he fell is monumentally impressive in demonstrating the fighting skill of this legendary figure. Number 3. Ursa, Oseram freebooter and former captain of the Sun King's vanguard. Though we were told of Ursa's ferocity via Erin's recollection during Aloy's story, we only come face to face with Ursa during her last moments of life, after being tortured relentlessly by her former compatriot Dervahl. However, within the comics, we are finally shown just how impressive a person Ursa truly was in life. Once the Red Raids began, Ursa and her brother formed a group of freebooters dedicated to liberating captured Oseram destined for sacrifice. On the front lines, she battled Carja's soldiers and blood hunters, bringing down any who stepped in her path. When she was captured by the Carja after remaining behind to cover her people's escape, she was brought to the Sun Ring to be sacrificed before Jiran himself. Unarmed, she was forced to battle a Ravager. Using her wits and cunning, she would slay a Kestrel guarding the arena, take up his bow, and put down the Ravager, and with one arrow in her quiver, slay the remaining Kestrel guard, making her the only Oseram in history to survive the horrors of Jiran's Sun Ring. After being made a palace slave, she would gain crucial information concerning Carja military movements thanks to the aid of Prince Avad, and would escape Meridian and return home. In the following 2 years, she would devastate Carja outposts and military supply lines until Avad would come looking for aid to overthrow his father. Together, they would lead the liberation against Jiran, bringing the reign of the 13th Sun King to an end. In her prime, Ursa was one of the most brave and fearsome warriors among her people, formidable against man and machine, a battlefield tactician, and an instrumental piece in bringing the atrocities of the Red Raids to an end. The only thing keeping her from being higher on this list was her untimely death, cutting short a life that could have achieved even greater heights. Number 2, Rost, Nora Deathseeker. A capable brave, Rost lived out the first chapter of his life in relative peace at the edge of the Sacred Land. This before a group of 12 outlanders took hostages of his family and fellow tribespeople. After pillaging a forbidden ruin of the tribe, they executed the hostages beyond tribal borders, his wife and child among them. After this tragedy, Rost went to the High Matriarchs to perform a dark ritual of the Nora, to be made a Deathseeker. Ripping the spirit from the body to remain with all mothers, Rost was free to leave the Sacred Land as an instrument of death and vengeance. After burying his family, he traveled across the known world and beyond, tracking down each of the 12 who had taken everything from him. Meridian, Ban-Ur, the Claim, Utaru lands, and even into the Forbidden West, he found each and killed until none remained. Gravely wounded, he returned to the edge of the Sacred Land, wishing to die as close to All-Mother as possible. Saved by a passing brave who had too lost their family, he was made an outcast and allowed to live out the rest of his life within Nora lands. He would later be charged with the care of an infant Aloy, training her to become a prolific machine hunter in order to win the Proving and earn a place among the tribe. When the Eclipse ambushed the new braves atop All-Mother Mountain, Aloy found herself in the clutches of their leader, and Rost took action, fighting off the assailant before succumbing to a stab wound to his abdomen. Before he perished in the ensuing explosion, he was able to push his adopted daughter to safety, a sacrifice that would eventually lead to the world being saved once again. A hunter with an unstoppable will, deadly skill set, and who held his own against the right hand of the Mad King, Rost truly is a warrior worthy of remembrance. Before we reveal our top pick for this list, here are a few honorable mentions. Number 1, Helis, the Terror of the Sun. Now, this one was a toss-up, as I feel there's an argument to be made for either Rost or Ursa being number 1 on our list, but as far as ruthless killing machines are concerned, few compare to the bloody legacy of Duran's most trusted servant. Honed for battle in the howling canyons beyond Sunfall, Helis quickly distinguished himself among his fellow Kestrels. As the derangement took hold over the machines and the Red Raids began, so too did the infamous legacy of Helis. Heading Duran's raids in the north, the claim was ravaged by the savagery of Helis, as he stacked corpses of the Oseram victims so high that his forces could use them to scale the walls of the settlements that opposed him. For such ruthless prowess in battle, Helis became the most highly decorated soldier in the Carja Sundom. During the siege of Meridian, Duran entrusted his youngest son Itamen and his dowager queen Nasadi to Helis, ordering him to take them away from the city to safety. Helis would then become the head of the Shadow Carja military, and eventually, after the founding of the Eclipse, become a faithful and deadly instrument of the Buried Shadow. After orchestrating the Proving Massacre, he defeated Rost after taking an arrow to the shoulder before leaving he and Aloy for dead. He would also return to Meridian during Hades' siege of the Spire, putting down all those who stood in his way before Aloy finally ended his reign of terror. As far as Warriors in Horizon are concerned, there are many impressive resumes out there, but there are few who can match the expertise, experience, longevity, and raw devotion to war as the right hand of the 13th Sun King, Helis. And that brings our journey to an end. If you'd like to see more content like this, likes and shares are always appreciated, and if you're hungry for more Horizon lore, consider subscribing and checking out the rest of our lore library. Also consider supporting the channel on Patreon, so we can keep making content just like this. Check out the link in the description. And as always, thanks for watching, and keep questing.